Welcome to Disneyland Paris in Depth, the Disneyland Paris history series where we explore the stories and secrets behind some of the resort's most beloved attractions. In today's episode, we're taking a look at the history of a classic Fantasyland dark ride, Les Voyages de Pinocchio. Released in 1940, Pinocchio was Walt Disney's second full-length animated feature film, and it's regarded as one of the most visually stunning films of the early animation age. Despite this, Pinocchio was not one of the opening day dark rides at Disneyland in California. In fact, it would take nearly 3 decades for a Pinocchio ride to come to fruition. However, the Pinocchio ride we know and love was not the first time an idea for a Pinocchio-themed attraction had been designed for Disneyland. Imagineer Tony Baxter proposed an entirely new land to Disneyland called Dumbo's Circus Land. This land would feature the existing Dumbo and Casey Jr. attractions, as well as a new Pinocchio ride themed around the Pleasure Island section of the film. While this land was never built, the idea to add Pinocchio to Fantasyland stuck, and when Mickey Mouse Theatre, located next to Snow White and Her Adventures, closed in 1976, the perfect space was made available for the project. Pinocchio's Daring Journey, as it's called in California, will be a classic Fantasyland dark ride, using a series of 2D cardboard sets and character dioramas to tell the story of the entire film in just over 2 minutes. While the approach to designing the attraction was very similar to the original dark rides, a new holographic effect was developed for the ride to be used in the mirror in the scene where Lampwick turns into a donkey. Imagineers also incorporated the Pepper's Ghost effect they had previously used for the Haunted Mansion, this time for the Blue Fairy in the attraction's final scene. Construction on Pinocchio's Daring Journey coincided with a larger renovation project taking place across Fantasyland. When Disneyland opened in 1955, budget constraints meant that many of the facades were built to look like temporary carnival tents. In 1983, Imagineers decided to change and transform Fantasyland into a medieval fairy tale village. Pinocchio's facade was designed based on the concept art for Stromboli's Theatre by Gustav Tengren. Despite being designed for California, Pinocchio's Daring Journey actually first opened as an opening day attraction at Disneyland Tokyo on the 15th of April 1983. It opened in California just 1 month later on the 23rd of May 1983. Pinocchio's Daring Journey was never built in Walt Disney World. But, given Disneyland Paris' lead designer Tony Baxter's involvement in the ride's design, it's no surprise that it was incorporated into plans for Fantasyland in Paris. The ride is identical to the versions in California and Tokyo, except for the audio and some signage being switched to French. The attraction also received a new name, Les Voyages de Pinocchio, or Pinocchio's Journeys. If you've ever been to Disneyland Paris, you might have noticed that Fantasyland is split into several subsections, each themed around a different European country. Le Voyage de Pinocchio, along with Blanche-Neige et les Sept Nains, is located in the Bavarian area, just to the right of the castle as you enter the land. And the ride isn't the only Pinocchio-themed building in this area of Fantasyland. Next to the attraction, you'll also find a gift shop, La Bottega de Geppetto, and Au Chalet de la Marionnette, a quick-service restaurant. Le Voyage de Pinocchio opened with Disneyland Paris on the 12th of April 1992. Despite some criticism of the ride's admittedly darker tones, Le Voyage de Pinocchio remains one of the most popular rides in Fantasyland, regularly getting a 30-plus minute wait. Le Voyage de Pinocchio is my personal favourite of the Fantasyland dark rides. I enjoy the variety of scenes throughout the ride, the music and Stromboli's laugh. So, now that you know the history behind Le Voyage de Pinocchio, we're going to finish the video with a few fun facts about the ride. There are 12 scenes throughout the ride, taking guests through the entire plot of Pinocchio, from Stromboli's circus to Pleasure Island, to the coast with Monstro the Whale, and finally back to Geppetto's workshop. While the ride is identical to the California and Tokyo versions, it's technically slightly shorter. This is because French building regulations meant that the attraction walls had to be a bit thicker in Paris. Talking of the building's design, when you're outside the attraction, look up and you'll see a weather vane with a stork and a baby. Although not confirmed, this is perhaps a nod to the original concept for Dumbo's Circus Land, which would have combined the stories of Dumbo and Pinocchio. When You Wish Upon a Star might be the most important song in the film, but Hi Diddly Dee is the most important song in the attraction. If you listen carefully, you'll notice that it follows you throughout your journey. Pinocchio sings it in the Marionette Theatre, it's playing in the Pleasure Island scene, and a more sombre version can be heard in the salt mines. And finally, one detail that is particularly apt for Paris. As you enter the salt mines, you will see that the Mona Lisa is among a pile of rubbish and graffiti. This is present in both the film and the previous iterations of the ride, but it fits particularly well in Paris since the real painting is less than 50 kilometres down the road. That's it for today's video. We hope that you enjoyed this deep dive into the history of Les Voyages de Pinocchio. If you did, hit the like button and subscribe and hit the bell icon for more Disneyland Paris tips and tricks. If you are interested in more Disneyland Paris history, check out the playlist linked in the description. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.